All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your hostess, Gaia Morrissette, for another fantastic episode of My Orgasmic Life. And it's New Year's Eve day, New Year's Eve morning, where I am at. And I thought this would be a great time to kind of give you the juicy update on, I haven't been live and I've been gallivanting and frolicking and having sexy time and, giving you all the juice on what I've been up to. And I wanted to really have a conversation with you before you go into New Year's Eve tonight, to get you ready and primed on how to make sure that whatever you have planned for your adventuring tonight, that it goes well and successfully. All right, so let's start. Okay, so here I had 3 things that I wanted to explore. And so part of Slutty Christmas, Slutty Xmas, was about exploratory sex and doing some stuff I hadn't done before. And, each one of my lovers kind of taking one of those things and exploring that with me. And so I did accomplish those things, but I really want to lean into how I really, really, really didn't allow myself the pleasure possibilities that could have happened if I wasn't all up in my head with expectations of how shit was supposed to go down. And that's right. Even I get up in my head. Pleasure, sex fairy, goddess, orgasmic queen that I am. Sometimes I get sucked into the vortex of expectations like most of us do. All right, so let's start with the first one, because I know you're like, what were the 3 things? What were the 3 things? I need to hear what the 3 things were. I know you guys. I know you guys so well. Okay. Oh, actually, before we go into the 3 things, today's episode was brought to you by ticklelife. For all of your sexual wellness, education, and needs, go visit tickle.life. All right. See, sometimes I forget. I got a sponsor. I got to pump them. All right, here we go. So the first thing was fisting. I've been wanting to explore fisting for a very long time, and I've tried many, many, many times. But I have a very, very tiny vaginal canal. And so it's never been successful. So one of my lovers has fairly small hands, and I thought, and he was like, I could be into that. So we decided that was the adventure that we were going to go on. And I had been fantasizing about it and masturbating to it for like the last 6 months, actually, because he's been away in Mexico. So been super excited about, seeing him, and I haven't seen him in 6 months. And so I had like all this expectations of like how it was going to go and what we were going to do and how we were going to have this great sexual experience. And like, I had all this and how easy it was going to be and it was going to be successful. And then he was going to fist me, and then we were going to have sex and intercourse, and then we're going to do it again. And it was like this whole thing that I had created in my mind while I was whacking off. Now, don't get me wrong, whacking off was awesome. But I took some of those expectations and I brought that in to the experience. So here's the reality of what happened. We haven't seen each other in 6 months. He was kind of super stressed out about seeing me and the expectations that he put on himself. And then I had my expectations that, we haven't seen each other, so it's going to be like explosive instead of being there's this moment of kind of awkwardness and, weirdness because we haven't seen each other in a while, and what's the expectations and all of these things. And so it wasn't as like epically explosive as I anticipated. It was still really good. Like this, I think this is the important piece of it, is that if it was really good because we did get to do some fisting. We didn't have any intercourse, which is actually perfect because there's no way my vagina could have handled intercourse after we explored fisting. Our conversation, we were really good. We were navigating it really well. We were laughing really well. We were, leaning into it well with each other. And, and so that was good. We didn't get his whole fist in there because, but we got more than I've ever had before. And of course, now I had these big plans of like, okay, so, I was doing fisting with him, and then I was going to have, foot sex with, my other lover, and then I was going to try out chain, and then I was supposed to have a threesome, and like I had all these plans, bang, bang, bang. I didn't take into consideration that, fisting should have been like the last thing I did on the list. Not the first thing I did on the list, because it didn't occur to me. Okay, so anyway, so I had a lovely time with him. We got to explore. Now I could have had I could have had a way better time, me personally, if I had let go of any of those expectations and just gone into it with like, let's explore and see what's going to happen. I have no expectations. Whatever happens is perfect. If I had gone into it with that mindset, I could have enjoyed it even more than I already did. And if he was able to have gone into that experience from that perspective, he would have been able to enjoy it even more than he already did. All right. So now that I've done, this, basically my vagina's out of commission for about 3 days. three days in need of some rest. So I have my next lover come over, and I'm like, okay, my vagina is out of commission, but you and I can explore, because I found out that, in having a conversation, see, this is why conversations are so important, okay? In having a conversation with him about Slutty Xmas and the exploration of Slutty Xmas, I found out that he was into feet. And I was like, what? How could we have been lovers for how many months? And I had no idea. And the thing is that I love my feet being worshipped. Love it. It's one of my kinks, actually. So I was like, okay, this is awesome. I said, I haven't had like a hardcore foot worshiping, having sex with my feet in like a year, because, my old lover wasn't in the picture anymore, who was very much into that. And so I was like super excited. Oh, it's going to be so epic. It was epic, but I was like, it's going to be so epic. So I had expectations. I went in again. You think I would have learned? No, sometimes I'm a slow learner. I went in again with expectations that this is what it's going to look like, and this is the positioning, and this is how it's going to be, and this is how it's going to be like this, and this is how it has to be. So that's what I went in with. And as I went in with that, I prevented it from being as epic as it was. I mean, it was really amazing. It's like it'd been forever. The sensations were incredible. The way that he worshipped my feet, he was so excited to play with them and to be with them and to have sex with them, and to like, it was hot and sexy and amazing, right? But there's also logistics, right? So logistically, it's been a while since my body's had to be in that position. It's hard to sustain your feet in this position, and your knees are bent, and you're moving your, and so there was muscles, like, so I was getting cramps, and there was just like a bunch of logistical stuff that happens when you're exploring, right? And in your fantasies, there's never logistics of cramping, making sure you got enough lube, right? These kinds of things, positioning of the body, positioning of the feet, all the logistics, right? And so there's in that moment where it's like, oh, this is super hot. But then there's that moment, it's like, oh, my thighs hurt, my inner thighs hurt, and my ankles hurt, and my back hurts. And oh my God, I need to switch positions. I got a cramp. I've got a butt cramp. Which minimizes the true surrendering to the experience of the pleasure, because instead of it just being like that's part of exploratory sex and the logistics of that, instead it becomes it's ruined the experience. And so that's that mindset that happens when we step into any kind of sexual, well, any experience in life, period. But in a sexual realm, when we step in with a sexual expectation based on the things that we fantasized about, that what happens is we bring all of those expectations into the experience. And the minute we bring those expectations, anything that doesn't measure up, which is just logistics sometimes about, there's just stuff that just, it can never be exactly as you fantasize about. And so what ends up happening is that the experience isn't as epic as you fantasized about it. And so you downplay it and it doesn't feel as amazing as it could have been if you had left the expectations at the door. All right. So again, this is why I'm sharing this. This is why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because we all have expectations of tonight. Every single one of us. This is what, New Year's Eve is going to be like. This is what the expectations of, how it's going to show, how I'm going to show up, how they're going to show up, how my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my wife or my husband or my partner is going to show up. Or if you're planning on, like some kind of crazy sexual experience, there's a lot of expectations of how that's going to play itself out. And, so I wanted to just kind of, I really wanted to have this conversation and really drop in. If you want tonight to be epic, if you want your sexual adventuring to be epic, you need to let go of the expectations, right? All right, so we're going to do one more. Because I know you're like, what about the chains? Say something about chains. What happened with the chains? I don't want to leave you hanging. Ba-doom ching. Maybe from the chains? Would you like to be hanging from the chains? Sorry, out of control. All right, so my last exploration that happened that I really wanted was a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to a friend of mine who is developing a sex toy for ticklelife, and he was creating a prototype, and I get to test it out. Yay, my life is so fun. And I'll tell you all about that sex toy once I get it. It's en route. But anyway, so we were talking, and he had suggested, have you ever tried putting chain inside your vagina? I was like, what? No, that sounds amazing. And he was telling me all about how epic it is and, transcendent it is and all these things. And I was like, okay, I got a whole dungeon filled with chain, different sizes of chain, different types of chain, lengths of chain. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try this. So with my lover on Christmas Day, I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. So I go and I pick which chain I want to try. And you just give me a second here for all of my listeners that are going to be listening later. I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody who's with me this morning live. You're all incredible. Thanks for hanging out with me and being a good little voyeur. Learning and listening, watching. All right, back to our show. Where was I? Oh, chain in my vagina. Okay, so Christmas Day, I'm like, all right. I wake up, I put my little slutty elf outfit on. I'm all ready for the day. Yay, Slutty Xmas. However, I didn't really pick the right partner to be spending Slutty Xmas with, because Xmas isn't really his thing, and unless I'm really in this place of arousal, and horniness. He kind of feeds off of that. So it's not really his thing to kind of start the ball rolling. So anyway, so we end up, and this is, I'm going to be as straight up and honest because I think it's important that you guys know this. So I got all ready and I wasn't feeling very horny. And the reason I wasn't feeling very horny is that, and this is kind of going to put a damper just for a second, okay, is because for me, when I was a child, I was abused on Christmas Eve. And so Christmas Eve is usually can trigger me sometimes. And part of reclaiming my Christmas and reclaiming this time of year is where part of that was creating Slutty Christmas, Slutty Xmas, so that I could move into the pleasure place and reclaim my power. So anyways, I did really well. I was just slightly triggered, but that meant that my libido was lower than it normally is, where I'm not ready to hump a tree. So anyways, so because his libido is based, a lot of it is for him is about how aroused I am, we'll get his motor running. I wasn't super there. So we ended up playing cards all day. There's a couple moments of like some forced cunnilingus and made him, eat me out and give me a couple orgasms throughout the day. But I wasn't really fully horny. And so because I wasn't fully horny, neither was he. And so we had a great day. We laughed lots. We played lots of cards. We had, it was a great day. It was a nice, relaxing Christmas day. But I had this expectation, right? Like, I'm like, no, like we are doing, it's Slutty Xmas. We need to do this chain in my vagina thing because I went and sterilized it. So it's like 9:00 at night. And I'm like, oh, I said we were going to do this and we were going to totally do this. So, and I'd already sterilized the chain and everything. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I wasn't really horny and he wasn't really horny, but I was like, I was attached to this has to happen because this was the plan. And because this was the plan, this is what's going to happen. And you're listening to this, you're like, Gaia, this doesn't sound sexy. You're right. It doesn't sound sexy. It's not sexy. This is what happens when we have plans and expectations and we just don't be in the flow. All right. This is what happens when you're a control freak. Yes, I relapsed. I'll totally own that. I totally relapsed and was a control freak. I'm like, all right, let's do this thing. I drag him into the bedroom and, I pull out the chain that, lubed it up, put the chain in and, and I was like, oh, it kind of feels okay. I'm like, okay. So now you're going to remove it, slowly remove each link. That's what I was told. This is going to be epic. It's totally. So I'm, using my toy, masturbating, and he's slowly removing the chain. And it was like, it felt okay, but it wasn't epic. Right. So I'm like, huh. So it felt like a real letdown. But then in hindsight, it kind of was a letdown for many reasons. I don't think it was the chain's fault. Right? So here, let's see if you can guess all the reasons why it was kind of a letdown. Let's see how well you've been paying attention. All right. So reason number 1, I wasn't horny. Reason number 2 is that there was an expectation going in that it was supposed to be this thing and that we had to do this thing because we had to do this thing on Christmas. Because I had an expectation it's Slutty Christmas and I worked up Slutty Christmas. So we all have to have Slutty Christmas and we got to do this chain on Slutty Christmas. So serious expectation on how the outcome was supposed to happen. And 3, I had this huge, it was talked up like it was going to blow my mind. And I was like, it's okay. So the moral of the story, let go of expectations. 2, don't have sexy time if you're not horny. 3, let go of expectations. 4, Don't be a control freak. Control freaks are not sexy unless it's in a BDSM situation and everybody's in. That's a difference. The difference between being a control freak versus dominant. All right. Dominant is sexy. Rawr. Get to your knees. Drop to your knees now. All right. Versus like, oh, you have to drop to your knees now because I said so, because this is what's supposed to happen. Those are two different things. One's sexy, one's not sexy. All right. All right. So going into, I wanted to share, I needed to share with you my wins, my lessons, my failures of Slutty Xmas, so that you could totally understand what it can look like and all the things that it looks like even for me. All right. So going into New Year's tonight and today and into 2020, I want you to look at, so how could I have gone into those 3 different experiences without any expectations and fully enjoyed the experience? Okay. So 1, going into the fisting experience, having 0 expectations. If we get a couple fingers in, great. Not being attached to the outcome, not being attached to the goal of the experience. That could have made the experience even better than it was. Going into my foot worshiping experience, letting go of how I thought it was supposed to be, and any of the logistical stuff, instead of it ruining the fantasy and bursting the fantasy bubble, looking at it as, laughing about it as part of the logistics of things, and that's just part of the fun of the exploration. Right? Is like, how flexible am I? We need to hold on, gotta stretch, and finding the play and the humor in the logistics instead of allowing those awkward moments to be the thing that dims the experience for me. Going into the experience of the chain, how that could have been much better for me is, 1, I would have been horny. 2, I let go of the expectation of what it was supposed to be. And 3, if I had different variety options. So I think the chain, I will try the chain again. I think a bigger link will work better for me, and a heavier link. Plus being in a roused state and already having a couple orgasms will also, my vagina will be awake. So it'll have more sensation and I can experience more. And really, again, letting go of any expectations that it's just an adventure, and the whole part of the arousal of exploratory sex is that it's exploratory sex, that there are no expectations of it. It's exploratory. You're curious. The arousal piece comes from the curiosity, not from the outcome. And that is that's a really hard thing to remind ourselves of. That's a really challenging way of looking at the world, is that because we've been taught to be so goal oriented, that everything has a destination. We always have a goal. We're attached to the outcome instead of surrendering to the process and enjoying the journey that we're on. So there's my advice going into 2020. Is to let go of expectations and allow life, pleasure, experiences to unfold perfectly, and don't miss out on all the possibilities, because our brain is like, well, that's not how it's supposed to be. This isn't what I signed up for. I had a whole fantasy. Now, that doesn't mean that having a fantasy life isn't important. It's important to have a fantasy life, especially in the sex department, because it's where we get to explore in our own mind different variables and possibilities. Plus, it stimulates the parts of our brain around creativity, and which is what helps us with creative problem solving. So as we get older, so when we're younger, we do the imagination game all the time, and this helps us with that part of our brain that does creativity, which helps us with creative problem solving and being able to adapt and all sorts of really important life skills. Right? So as we get older, using our mind to fantasize about new variables and possibilities, this exercises that part of our brain, so that part of our brain is active. And so it's important. But it's important to understand that fantasy is in the realm of fantasy, And explorational sex is not your fantasy. You're not fulfilling your fantasy. You're not making your fantasy come alive. That's, I think, where we drop into the problems all the time, is that we say, okay, I've had this fantasy, and so I'm going to make this into reality. No, 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 no. You are doing something completely different. What you're doing is you're actually exploring, and there's all sorts of new variables in this exploratory sexual experience. All right? So the minute your brain starts to go, oh, I'm going to make my fantasy into reality, that's the minute you want to say, nope, 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 nope. That is just going to ruin this experience, this exploratory experience. My fantasy is my fantasy, and it is perfect as it is. Over here is a new possibility that I'm going to explore. And I don't know what it's going to look like. I have no attachment to the outcome of it. I'm just going to go along for the adventure and see what transforms into that. So if you can start to practice that and live in that, your life will be much easier. Not to mention, you'll have way more joy. And you won't be disappointed all the time. Okay? So that's a reminder to you and a reminder to me, because, nothing I hate more than being a hypocrite. So now that I've said this all to you guys, I am forced to live by the same truth. And if any time you happen to, if you know me well and you engage with me and you see sometime you're like, oh, Gaia's moved out of exploratory to expectational, I give you permission to call me out on that shit. Okay? All right. So that's it. That's all. Before I go and send you off into the world to explore whatever possibilities are going to happen as your day unfolds and your evening unfolds tonight, is quick reminders. I have a fantastic online courses, so you can explore your education. You can find them at succulentliving.com under Work With Us in the online course section. I'm creating this, wait for it, this is super exciting. I'm creating a new course. It's called Sexual Skill Building. And it's all the logistical how-tos: kissing, making out, foreplay, intercourse, anal sex, intro to kink, oral sex, all of the logistics of like how to have really good sex, and improve your sexual skill building. So I'm in the process of creating that. So I imagine I'll be able to, it should be ready to launch probably in February. So stay tuned to that. And I have all sorts of fantastic courses, always either guided or self-study for you guys to come and play with me. Also, for all of your sexual wellness needs and education and coaching, you can reach me at succulentliving.com for all your BDSM, wellness, and education, and all your BDSM, the whole BDSM world. You can find me at empressgaia.com. You can follow me on social media under Gaia Morrissette or Empress Gaia and Empress Gaia. And you can, let's see what else. Oh, it's been a while since I've done one of these. You can follow me on wherever your favorite podcasting goes on: Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Apple, on all the favorite things, so that you can download me and take me with you anywhere you go. Wouldn't it be fun to listen to me while you're working out? How much more fun would working out be if you got to listen to me talk about, sex, and who knows what I'll talk about. And listening to that evil cackle. And last but not least is just a quick reminder. This episode was brought to you by ticklelife, for all of your sexual wellness needs and education. Please visit tickle.life. All right. I think that's it. That's all. Now that's it. That's all. All right. Have fun tonight. And I can't wait to hear about how fantastic your night was, because you let go of all the expectations about how fantastic your night was going to be. Mwah. Bye.